Welcome to the deep dive. Have you ever thought about how, like a really small thing, maybe a tiny argument over hotel rooms could just completely shake up your world, maybe lead you somewhere totally unexpected?
Well, that's pretty much the heart of what we're exploring today, isn't it? We're doing a deep dive into E.M. Forster's classic novel, A Room with a View.
Mm.
Our mission really is to see how this simple desire for a nice view in Italy spirals into this big exploration of love, truth, society,
Yeah.
personal freedom, all of it.
Yeah, we're going to follow the main character, Lucy Honeychurch, as she tries to figure things out between, different cultures, different feelings inside herself, and she kind of finds her real self in all the, well, chaos. And our source today, just the novel itself, straight from Forster.
Which lets us get right into the details, little nuances that make her journey so transformative.
Okay, so with that setup, let's start where the book does. Florence, the pension Bertolini. Lucy and her chaperone, Miss Charlotte Bartlett, are there, and right away there's this problem. The room doesn't have the view they wanted.
Right, and it leads to this sort of peevish little argument. But then, almost immediately, Mr. Emerson and his son George show up. They're described as, well, maybe a bit ill-bred, not quite fitting in, but very direct.
Super direct. They just overhear the complaint and basically say, here, take our room, it's got the view.
Exactly. And Charlotte, Miss Bartlett, she's just mortified. She thinks they're brutal, gross even, Victorian manners. But their offer, however crass she thinks it is, actually gives them exactly what they wanted, the view.
It's such a great opening, isn't it? Because even Lucy senses right away that this isn't just about rooms. Forster writes that this contest widened and deepened till it dealt, not with rooms and views, but with, well, with something quite different. What is that something different, do you think, that she's picking up on already?
I think it's the first little crack, isn't it? In her very proper, very English Victorian way of seeing the world. It's not just about the physical room. It's this dawning idea that maybe there are other ways to be, other ways to talk to people, other truths under the surface. She's seeing this like raw honesty that's totally alien to her background. It really hints at everything that's coming.
And that perfectly sets up her meeting with Miss Eleanor Lavish, the clever lady.
Right. Miss Lavish just dismisses the guidebooks, the Baedekers, straight away. She promises Lucy a real adventure.
Into the true Italy.
Yeah, the sweetly squalid Italy, full of life, she says, not just niceness. How different is that from what Lucy's used to?
It's the total opposite, really. Lucy and Charlotte are doing the structured guidebook tour. Miss Lavish is all about the mess, the unplanned bits.
Remember their walk? Miss Lavish is pointing out smells, wine carts, talking about civility to workers as true democracy. It's all very eccentric.
And her little political diatribes get them lost, don't they? She cries out, bless us and save us, we've lost the way.
Which is kind of a metaphor for Lucy, too.
Yeah.
Getting lost to find something new.
Exactly. And Lucy has this fleeting moment in the square of the Annunciata. She sees the divine babies, feels real beauty. But then Miss Lavish just pulls her back to, practical stuff. It feels like Lucy keeps getting glimpses of something real, then pulled away.
Absolutely. And that tension, that push and pull, it just builds and builds until the big event in the Piazza Signoria. That's where things really take a turn.
Yeah, those first meetings start chipping away at Lucy's world, but the Piazza Signoria incident, that's something else entirely. I mean, a man is stabbed right there by the fountain. Lucy faints.
And who catches her? George Emerson. He carries her away.
And George's reaction is so different. He says, something tremendous has happened. I must face it without getting muddled. It isn't exactly that a man has died.
It's that direct confrontation again, isn't it? Death makes him want to face life, clearly, without any of the usual social fluff. It's such a contrast.
Right, a contrast to Lucy's reaction. She feels this physical fluttering inside, but then she just starts talking about the murder almost casually, like a defense mechanism, trying to avoid the deeper feelings.
Exactly. Her body knows something huge happened, but her mind, her conditioning, tries to smooth it over, make it manageable. And then George throws her photos in the Arno River, the Botticelli, the Giotto,
Ow.
because they have blood on them.
Yeah, he's just rejecting the superficial beauty, isn't he? Because reality, the blood, has stained it.
Totally. He wants something real. And Lucy feels like she and the dying man have crossed some spiritual boundary. She knows something fundamental has shifted.
And George's line after that, I shall probably want to live. It's so stark after seeing death. What's he really saying there?
I think it's just this raw affirmation, life, the face of death. It's not philosophical exactly. It's just primal. This happened, and now I want to live.
Yeah.
But Lucy, she's immediately trying to manage the social side, asking him not to mention her fainting, her foolish behavior.
And he just doesn't get it, does he? The expected chivalry, the indirectness. He doesn't play those social games?
No, he speaks the truth. Which brings us to Mr. Beebe, the clergyman. He finds Mr. Emerson interesting because he has the merit, if it is one, of saying exactly what he means. Beebe himself finds it difficult to understand people who speak the truth. It suggests truth is kind of uncomfortable in their world.
It really is, like a foreign language. And then you have Miss Lavish.
Oh, Miss Lavish, ever the writer.
Yeah, for her, the stabbing is just, what, an idea for her next book.
Pretty much. Swap the reason for the fight, a 5-franc note for a young lady, add some local coloring, be unmerciful to the British tourist. It's just material for her, using life instead of, well, living it maybe.
Okay, so from that intensity, we move to the Fiesole excursion. This was supposed to be Mr. Eager's perfectly planned little trip. A partie carrée, just 4 of them, driving into the hills. He thinks he knows the real Florence, not like those tourists with their Baedekers.
Yes, Mr. Eager, the chaplain, very much in control, or so he thinks, because then the dreadful thing happens.
Mr. Beebe messes it all up.
He does. Doesn't even ask Eager, just invites old Mr. Emerson and Miss Lavish along. Doubles the party.
And the carriage seating is chaos. Miss Lavish ends up with Lucy, and poor Charlotte Bartlett gets stuck with George and Mr. Beebe. She just cannot handle things when they don't go to plan, can she?
Not at all. And the drive itself becomes this clash of philosophies. You've got Mr. Eager looking down on the poor tourists. They don't see anything outside the guidebook. He says, just mix uptown, see a yaller dog. He despises that lack of, I don't know, curated appreciation.
But Mr. Emerson, he offers something completely different. He quotes Lorenzo the poet, "Don't go fighting against the spring."
Yeah, it's beautiful. He asks, do you suppose there's any difference between spring in nature and spring in man? He points out how we praise spring in nature but condemn the same urges in people, call them improper. He wants us to embrace that natural energy.
And the Italian cab driver, Phaethon, and his sister Persephone, they almost seem to embody that, don't they?
They're just naturally affectionate, open, despite Mr. Eager getting all flustered. They are the spring Mr. Emerson's talking about.
They really are. So you have this tension, control versus spontaneity, nature versus proper behavior, and it all leads up to the moment on the hillside.
Right. The party gets separated. Lucy tries to get away from it. Charlotte Forster uses that image of the Macintosh Square like she's being smothered.
She's looking for Mr. Beebe, but the driver leads her somewhere else, to this terrace just covered in violets.
It's incredibly picturesque. And then George Emerson appears. He just looks at her, Forster says, as one who had fallen out of heaven. He sees the joy in her face, the flowers against her dress.
It's so romantic, almost unreal.
And then he steps forward and kisses her.
Bam, the big moment.
But instantly, interruption.
Charlotte's voice, "Lucy, Lucy, Lucy." Forster writes, "The silence of life had been broken."
Wow. That line, the silence of life had been broken. What kind of silence is that, do you think? It's more than just sound, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. It feels like the silence of her her repressed self, her inner world that hasn't been touched like this before. The kiss is like that spring Emerson talked about bursting through, and Charlotte's voice is just society crashing back in. Propriety. Control.
Yeah, shattering the moment, but also maybe shattering Lucy's illusion that she can control these feelings.
And afterwards, everyone's just confused, bewildered. Forster calls it like the little god Pan visited, the god of social awkwardness, basically.
It's funny, but true. They're all in a muddle, except, interestingly, the driver, Phaethon.
Right. The Nala says he alone divined what things were. He understood the kiss connected back to the Piazza Signoria, to that message from the lips of a dying man.
He sees it not as a social blunder, which is how the English see it, but as something profound. Life, love, connection. He gets it.
While Charlotte is frantically trying to bribe him for silence.
Typical. Terrified of being entangled with low-class people, it's all about appearances for her.
And Lucy tries to explain it to Charlotte, right? She says, "I simply slipped into those violets," then corrects herself. "No, I want to be really truthful. I am a little to blame. I had silly thoughts." And that amazing line, the sky, was gold and the ground all blue, and for a moment he looks like someone in a book.
It's fascinating, isn't it? She's trying to be truthful, but she still frames it in this romantic, almost fictional way, like someone in a book.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the real, raw feeling is too much, so she have to translate it into something safer, something she recognizes from stories. Those silly thoughts are her real desires, but she immediately labels them silly.
And Charlotte just tells her to calm down. Wait, classic avoidance.
Classic Charlotte. Okay, so big jump now. Back to England. Windy Corner.
Yeah, back to the safety or maybe the confinement of home. Good old English society. The best society obtainable.
And here she gets engaged to Cecil Vyse.
Cecil. Oh, dear. At first, she thinks he's rescuing her from the small town scene.
Right. But pretty quickly we see he's tiresome, critical, he's very masterful, thinks women should be mysterious, not outspoken. And he wants to improve Lucy, sees her as Leonardo-esque, like a piece of art he owned.
He likes the idea of her, the aesthetic maybe, not the actual messy, emotional person she's becoming.
Exactly. And just as she settles into this engagement, thinking maybe Italy is behind her, boom.
The Emersons arrive.
In Summer Street, right nearby. And it's Cecil's fault.
The irony. He arranged for them to get the villa as a sort of joke on the local landowner, Sir Harry. He had no idea who they were.
Delicious irony. And Charlotte Bartlett is naturally having kittens. The secret. Right. Lucy might be exposed.
Lucy's uncomfortable too, isn't she? Pretends they're just friends of Cecil's.
Right. And you see the different layers of English snobbery. Cecil's is intellectual. Mrs. Honeychurch's is more about the right sort and wrong sort. But Freddie, Lucy's brother, he's just more straightforward, more democratic maybe. He just takes them as they are.
Amidst all this social awkwardness, Lucy has her music. That seems to be where her real feelings come out.
Definitely. Especially when she plays Beethoven, that Opus 111. Mr. Beebe hears it and thinks of hammer strokes of victory. He says she had found wings and meant to use them.
So her music shows this, subconscious yearning for freedom, even if she can't say it.
I think so. It's raw, powerful. But interestingly, later she plays Schumann, which Forster describes as having the sadness of the incomplete, the sadness that is often life but should never be art. That shift shows her internal conflict growing, doesn't it? From victory to incompleteness.
Yeah, and Mr. Beebe has that theory about musicians, that they're complex, don't always know what they want.
And he draws that sketch in his diary, remember? Lucy is a kite, Charlotte holding the string. Then, picture 2, the string breaks.
He sees it coming. He sees she's meant for more, even if she's tied down for now.
He's very perceptive, Mr. Beebe, which leads us to the moment the string really starts to snap.
The tennis party, Cecil reading aloud.
From Miss Lavish's new novel, Under a Loggia. Under a pseudonym, of course.
And Lucy hears it, and she just knows.
It's her scene, almost word for word. Hero and heroine make love on a hillside. Florence in the distance, carpeted with violets. Antonio stole up behind her, simply enfolded her in his manly arms.
Oh, the horror. Her most private, confusing, significant moment, just read out loud by her fiancé at a garden party.
It's brutal. She immediately confronts Charlotte. Something too awful has happened. There's a scene in it. Do you know about that? She's trying to process this total invasion.
And that invasion, that public exposure, it's the final straw, really. She breaks the engagement.
She does. Tells Cecil, we are too different. But her key point is about agency, isn't it?
Yeah. Cecil won't let a woman decide for herself. In fact, he daren't. It's about his need to control and her need to be free.
And Cecil, to his credit, he seems to actually get it. A little bit at the end of that conversation. He sees her not as his artwork anymore, but as a living woman with mysteries and forces of her own. He realizes he did not know her. It's a small moment of growth for him, maybe.
Perhaps. But the real growth, the real push towards truth, comes from Mr. Emerson again.
Absolutely. After she breaks it off with Cecil, she's planning to run away again, this time to Greece. And Mr. Emerson sits her down.
And gives that incredibly powerful speech. He tells her the truth about his wife's death, how Mr. Eager's judgmental attitude basically killed her spirit.
He says Eager made her think their son George getting typhoid was God's punishment for not baptizing him. She couldn't cope with that guilt. He says Eager murdered his wife in the sight of God.
It's devastating, and it explains so much about why Mr. Emerson values truth and why he's so worried about George.
He says George will not think it worthwhile to live because he's his mother's son, sensitive to that kind of spiritual despair. That's why he moved, to make him care to live.
His whole philosophy comes from this deep pain. And he warns Lucy so strongly, beware of muddle.
There's nothing worse than a muddle in all the world. He begs her to face the truth. He uses that analogy, doesn't he? Life is like learning violin in public.
Yeah, life is a public performance on the violin in which you must learn the instrument as you go along. You have to figure out your functions, especially love, as you go.
And then he just says it
There's-
straight out. You love George.
No beating around the bush there.
None at all. He argues for a love that isn't about possession, but about mutual respect. I want you to have your own thoughts, even when I hold you in my arms. How does Lucy handle that directness?
Well, first she cries. She feels caught in the tangle, right back in that muddle. She's terrified of what everyone will think. Her family, her friends.
The weight of society is still so heavy. But Mr. Emerson just insists. Truth counts. Truth does count. It's about more than just love or happiness. It's about truth itself.
And then, in a weird twist, Mr. Beebe gets involved again.
Yeah, he actually encourages her plan to go to Greece. Seems he doesn't like Cecil. And maybe, deep down, he prefers the idea of Lucy remaining, well, virginal. He makes that odd compact with Charlotte to help Lucy keep her resolution of virginity. He's projecting his own ideas onto her, maybe misreading her completely.
It seems like it. But the biggest twist is Charlotte. Miss Bartlett.
Oh, the final confession from Charlotte. It's amazing. She admits her own muddle, admits she secretly hoped, deep down, that Lucy and George would get together.
Right. She says that your cousin has always hoped, far down in her mind, that she fought us on the surface and yet she hoped. She basically implies all her interfering, all her annoying behavior was her subconscious way of pushing them together.
It's mind-blowing. It reframes her entire character. The guardian of propriety was secretly rooting for passion and chaos. It just shows how tangled up people get, how societal rules can twist even your own desires into knots. She was living in a muddle, too.
So in the end, Lucy finds her way. She and George get married. They go back to Florence.
And they stay in the very room where it all began, the room with the view. Forster suggests the main battles were fought for her, by Italy, by his father, by his wife, meaning Lucy herself, now George's wife. Her environment and the authentic people around her were key.
Yeah. And Forster adds that final thought. Truth came to Lucy naturally in the end, but now she must be more vigilant. Be absolutely truthful, well, at all events. She must not tell lies.
It's not a simple happy ever after, is it? It's an ongoing commitment. Living truthfully takes work, vigilance.
So it leaves us thinking, doesn't it? What does it take for us to take off that armor of falsehood, not just the lies we tell others, but the ones we tell ourselves? How do we stop letting society or just our own internal muddles dictate what we want? How do we find the courage to stop fighting against the spring?
That's the question, isn't it? A big one to chew on. Finding that room with your own view and daring